Well, we're approaching the last weekend of January, and it's getting time to narrow down areas of the table in various divisions. And I think in League One, it's looking like 5 teams in contention for 2 spots. Bradford City arguably looking the most vulnerable of those. So, some would say it's 4. And then there's outsiders outside the 5 that have maybe an outside shout, but it's looking unlikely, and they would need to produce something special as well as relying on something of a low bar. But I look at the standards that Cardiff City have set so far this season, and they've been extremely dominant. Brian Barry Murphy's side have enjoyed impeccable consistency whilst playing sumptuous football and really developing some players. And so it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think we can say that just yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if it came down to a battle for second, where Lincoln City are in pole position. They're 6 points clear of third place with a game in hand, as Michael Scabala's side showed a really incisive performance to beat Bradford City 3-0 in midweek and put themselves very much in the driving seat. But Bolton Wanderers have the managerial pedigree, they have the squad depth, and Stephen Schumacher and Bolton Wanderers. I think it was them that I said, if I didn't get their name wrong, get it right the second time round. They'll be hoping to put a run together and make sure that they get into that top 2. But there's also Stockport County, who were excellent at Blackpool last time out. Could they start to find a formula to put themselves in the mixer? Of course, they've played the same number of games as Lincoln City. Unlike Bolton, they're also on 49 points. So, with that said, Bradford City, of course, have a couple of games in hand on Bolton. They're on 46 points as well. With that said, let's get stuck into this League One podcast. So if you like what we do here, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. For YouTube, we also have a memberships option, £3 a month, which can go towards supporting the channel, which every penny goes straight back into the channel. We've hired a video editor for the channel, so hopefully that helps. And you can also get some extra bonus content for the members only package. So do look into that if you like what we do here. Right, with all that said, time to introduce our co-hosts for this evening. It's Jake Tong from the Here for the Lincoln podcast and Colin Yates of the Fan Zone podcast on Bolton Wanderers. Jake, do you think Lincoln City and Bolton Wanderers are going to be the centrepiece of the promotion race in League One? And how do you see things panning out?
It definitely seems like a bit of a battle as we speak, doesn't it? I'm trying to ignore Colin because I know exactly what he's like. Me and Colin, actually, we had this chat today, didn't we, Cole, about we don't think technically Cardiff are that far away. They're only 4 points away from us at this minute in time. We've still got them to play. All it takes, Gab, is Cardiff to slip up once in the next couple of weeks, which I think teams have proven that you can get at Cardiff. And I think there is still that side of them. I mean, Bolton did it back in October, Col. I think you played them. We beat them fairly comfortably, I thought, in December as well. So I don't think Cardiff I understand they deserve a lot of credit, and they probably, on paper, look quite far away. But I think they can be dragged back in. And in terms of the rest of them, I think the results in midweek probably see Bradford out of it a little bit. I feel like that momentum, that adrenaline's maybe slowed down a little bit for Bradford, and they've gone, and they've not. And if you look at it, and I'm sure we'll maybe talk about Bradford in a bit more depth, Gab, but you look at the teams that are in that battle for top 2 now: Bolton, Stockport, and Lincoln. Certainly, them 3, who I think it really is a bit of a 3-horse race for. All of them have strengthened significantly this month. You look at Bolton; they've got in Apter, Blackett Taylor. There's rumours of Ryan Hardy, obviously, that have come out today, which I'm sure Cole can talk to us more about. Stockport have got Tanto Alafe back. They've signed Josh Stokes. Talking about us, we've signed Josh Honohan, who I'm really excited for. Deji Elarue from Bromley as well, who's looking really exciting, and Ryan One, who's come in from Sheffield United, who's got a particularly really high ceiling. So. I think Bradford haven't backed Graham Alexander in the way that the other teams have backed their managers. So I think maybe that's why you maybe count them out.
Well, they might not be being able to as well. I think financially,
Is it Stephen Rupp? Is that Stefan Rupp?
Yes,
Is
Stefan
that
Rupp,
his
I think.
name?
Yeah.
He came out and said, "I've got the money to take Bradford to the Championship," and then they're in this position where they're in a great position to get themselves in,
Yeah.
and the lack of backing just no wonder the fans are annoyed. So
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln and Bolton are in the middle of it. Of course, we are, but I think there's a couple of other characters that maybe have their say as well.
More than meets the eye, perhaps, in that automatic promotion race. Cole, how do you see it in terms of the automatic promotion race? Do you think Cardiff can be caught, and do you think anyone other than Lincoln or Bolton could finish in the top two with them?
I think, obviously, Cardiff deserve a hell of a lot of credit, like Jake said already, for being so consistent. And I think that's a word you'd use to describe them, really, when only really them and Lincoln have probably been the most consistent the whole division, really, and that's why they find themselves, top of the tree. I think it's easy to think about kind of the league table and think, oh well, they're 10 points ahead, so that they've nailed on for winning the league, and the chances are they probably will win it. But I just think people tend to forget a little bit about how football can be a really funny game, and it can change very quickly. A couple of injuries to key players, maybe a bit of inconsistent form, which they've not had yet. I don't think really they've not had a little blip. So I think it's important for the likes of ourselves and Lincoln and of course Stockport and maybe to a lesser extent Bradford to ensure that they keep winning, just in case that was to happen, and they can take full advantage of that. But yeah, like I said, let's be truthful. Cardiff deserve to be top of the league at the moment. From our perspective, we're disappointed that we aren't competing with them for that first spot at the moment, but there's plenty of football left, Gab.
Certainly is. Jake, I wanted to talk to you about Lincoln City, because I think you can sort of set the bar to a certain extent, because if you can accumulate a really high points total, then, and you've obviously got that 6-point advantage, which could be 9 points if you on Bolton if you win that game in hand. Stockport have played the same number of games, but you do have that opportunity to, if you can get to 90 odd points, say, it makes it a lot harder, I would argue, for your Boltons and your Stockports. Whereas if the points total for second is a bit lower, then those teams have more of a chance. So obviously you feel pretty confident and pretty bullish after that performance in midweek.
Yeah, well, Tuesday night, Gab, was probably the best we've played for quite a while. What we're now 11 unbeaten. We've won 8 of those. We're in red hot form at this particular moment in time. And I think if you're talking about needing 90 points, that's only 35 points for Lincoln away. We've got 8 home games. If we can win the bulk of those, and the really big one is we've got Bolton to play at home and we've got Stockport to play at home. So if we can win both of those, I mean, I was speaking. I've had a chat with Cole today, obviously, and I don't fear anybody at home. It's what Cole says. I don't fear anybody coming to Central Bank the form that we're in at the moment. Bradford, I know they're coming off the back of back-to-back defeats in the week, but they're still a very good side. They've still got to 46 points from 27 games now. So they're still kicking about, and they're still a good side. And to brush them aside in the manner in which we did, I was very pleased. But
you shouldn't fear anybody, Jake. You shouldn't, because you are where you are on merit due to the fact that you're performing. So yeah, the fear shouldn't come. You should be thinking that you can beat anybody at home, and at the moment you can.
But a lot of these games that we do have at home, we've got a lot of play the bottom teams at home. So we've still got 3 of the bottom 4 to come at home. We've still got a couple of mid-table teams who, by the time we get around to playing them, potentially, I think, maybe example like Wickham, like Blackpool, maybe their seasons are going to be over by the time they come to Central Bank. So we've got some good opportunities to get a lot of points in those home games. And if we can get 20 points from those 8 home games, then it puts us in a really good position away from home. So I'm feeling bullish. Of course, I'm allowed to feel bullish, right? I try not to come across as arrogant, because I know one of the Fan Zone pod's biggest friends, David.
Cole's far too arrogant. You're never going to come across as arrogant.
What did he? Have you seen this tweet, Cole? He called me out last night. I basically got asked on League One Live last night if I think Lincoln are going to finish second, and I said yes, because
as you should.
We've been far more consistent, and I think Bolton, and we'll come to Bolton, have been very much like that. Stockport, very much the same, whereas Lincoln are very much flatline and quite high up. So, yeah, I feel confident. And that performance on Tuesday, I mean, it was magnificent, Gab. Like, it was genuinely...
Do you know what, Jake? I think I've got to hold my hands up here because I don't think I've given Lincoln City enough credit this season. I don't. I think I've had this skepticism around Lincoln City, partly because the 190-minute game I saw, which is obviously a bit different. I probably caught you on a bad day.
Which game was it you saw, Gab?
It was Leighton Orient where you were without a few players, and I probably went.
Right.
I probably went too much on that and didn't pay you enough respect. So hands up on that one. I think I underestimated you.
Yeah, well, that was a bad day, and that was probably, looking at it, was our tricky patch of the season. You know, our teams go through 3 or 4 game blips. I feel like we've already had ours. We lost away at Leighton Orient. We lost at home to Exeter, which was really disappointing because we were gutted to draw that. Never mind lose it. They scored in the 90-something minute with their only shot on target, which was a real sucker punch when we've been on top all game. And we went and drew to Bradford 0-0. So we didn't win for 3 games.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a patch, but I just think maybe you look at this group, the experience and the know-how in this group, which I know Cole maybe talks about with Bolton not having particularly. It seems to be really coming in clutch now with Tendai, Adam Reach, and Sonny Bradley. James Collins, although he's done his ACL, he's still massive behind the scenes at the training ground as well. So,
do you know what I really like about this team from what I've seen, Jake, is you're a very good transitional side, but it's also intelligent transitional play, because there's teams who can cut you open just because of sheer pace or whatever. And I think you have got Rico Hackett, who's fairly quick, but it's more that it's so intelligently coordinated and the link-up play is so cutely played. And there's that rotation of movement between Jack Moylan, Rob Street, Rico Hackett and Freddie Draper. And I think Moylan and Street in particular have that really nice sort of synergy and telepathy between them. It all comes together beautifully with Varfalo, Miev, and McGrandles providing that kind of solid base.
Do you see resemblances in how Derby were played when they got promoted a couple of seasons ago? Because from the outside, I've only watched a couple of Lincoln games, but from what I've seen, it does remind me of that Paul Warne team.
Yeah, effective, really good out of possession, really good in the transition, and then
set pieces, very good.
Set plays, I think we scored 30 goals from set plays last season, which says it all. And I think the record has been equally strong this year, despite losing Scotty Fry up to Rangers. We're still very strong on that, and it does feel a little bit like that. And the thing I like now is the reason why I think this team are in this position is because we get in front in games so often. I think in 26 games in all comps this year, and we've played 35, 36. We've scored the first goal, and that is, you can strip football back to basics. Scoring the first goal in any game is massively, massively important. If you get it, I think your chances of winning the game go up probably by 20 or 30%. And Lincoln are very good at going and getting that first goal, which is massive. And I think I looked at it the other day in terms of minutes that we've been leading. We've been leading for half of our minutes in League One this season, which is double the next team up, if that makes sense. So I think we've been leading for about 1,800 minutes this season. And then the next team were like maybe 900, 850 minutes have been leading for the course of the season. So, that's what it is, and this togetherness that Michael has built, and the experience, and what I think now is going to come into our favour a little bit, and maybe our squad depth isn't like what Bolton have got. Maybe it's not like what Stockport have got, but players that are coming back from injury. Ben House, massive player for Lincoln this season, scored Tuesday night. Isn't sexy, isn't flashy. Probably to Bolton go, would I have Ben House? Probably not. But in this Lincoln system, he is massively pivotal in the way that he presses. Tom Bayliss coming back from his injury. Probably, again, would teams at the top end say would have Tom Bayliss? Probably not. Set piece delivery, massive part of why Lincoln are so successful. So I think when you combine all that together, and the positive ethos around the club and the training ground, and the fact that we are probably overachieving compared to where we should be, I think it makes for a bit of a perfect storm. And the fact that the other teams have been a little bit inconsistent and we haven't, it definitely gives you a little bit more belief as a Lincoln City fan.
Certainly does. Colin, from a Bolton Wanderers perspective, Jake's spoken about the feel-good factor at Sincil Bank. I suppose it's a little bit different at Bolton, isn't it? Because the rhetoric, I suppose, for want of a better word, is always get us out of this league.
How long have I been saying that for?
And so obviously there's a bit more pressure on Bolton Wanderers than Lincoln City.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it comes with territory. I think the club at this level is a huge football club and demands to win every single game, and that obviously, like you all will probably realise when you've been to the Reebok, can be detrimental to the players. And I think this season so far, it has affected them on occasion, where we can often be the tactic, shall we say, for the opposition in terms of, the fans will turn on the players if they're not winning, type of thing. Gary Bowyer mentioned it the other day in his post-match interview, saying, "Listen, it happens here. When they're not winning, we did well to, affect the crowd. Blah 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 blah." So yeah, listen, it does have a massive effect, and I think that has possibly lent into the recruitment in January as well, as I've been saying for a long, long time. Even when Ian Everett was in charge, we need more experience. Jake's just said it about his team. Got experience, got know-how of not only how to get out of this league, but from our perspective, how to manage the fans and not to kind of crumble under that pressure. Jack Bonham, of course, has played higher. Corey Blackett-Taylor has got promotions under his belt. Obviously, Rob Apter, of course, as well, dropped down from the Championship. And I think the likes of the lad from Wrexham, the centre forward that we're going to be playing, who obviously signing hopefully that what we Schumacher.
Ryan Hardy.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan Hardy is going to be falls into a similar type of category. So I think the recruitment has been structured around kind of getting players who can manage that expectation, but also, of course, perform as well.
Certainly will. I'm wondering, one thing that stood out to me in that highlights of that win over Burton, Cole, was Carl Dempsey, because in my head, look at Carl Dempsey, and I would have said 3 or 4 years ago, one of the best midfielders in League One, had a bit of an injury hit couple of years.
Injury hit a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose I wouldn't have, but I'm actually really surprised that he's got this boundless energy about him, and he's able to go and press like an attacking midfielder, and so free in his running. And I almost wouldn't have expected that. So I suppose that's a testament to how good a trainer he is, and yeah, how well he's done, basically.
Yeah, I think he's played for a contract, Gab, to be honest. He's had a contract in the summer. Right. I think obviously he loves it at the club. He realises how lucky he is to be playing at Wanderers every week. So I think he's fighting for that contract. And he's loved by the fans as well, which also helps. It gives him that extra 10%, because obviously he does work so hard. And I think that's the bare minimum expectation, really, is for most football fans, but for certainly ours. You've got to put in the hard yards, and you can be as talented as you want, but if you're not working hard, then it's not going to go down very well. Joe Randall, perfect example. So yeah, he's working hard for a contract, and I think he's done a really good job, because if you look at Carl Dempsey, I think he's probably the reason why Aaron Morley today has been shipped out to Wycombe Wanderers on a permanent transfer, because when Kyle came back from his injury, and he was getting picked ahead of Aaron Morley, Morley's probably gone, oh yeah, my days are numbered here. And he's kept 11 performances as well, contributing to games when he started, and obviously contributing probably more effectively when he's come off the bench. Personally, I prefer him coming off the bench than starting games. And I think with the recruitment that we've made and going to make, I think that'll probably where he'll find himself. But I'm all for it, because I think he can impact games off the bench with that high energy that you're referring to.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can do that. I'm wondering about Sam Dolby and the influence he had. A couple of goals against Burton Albion. Is he somebody who you think can hit form in the second half of the season?
Yeah, we've changed formation, really. We've kind of like tried to build around him a little bit in recent weeks. Obviously Mario getting injured.
Of course, yeah.
He was out for supposedly 8 weeks. Something like that. Don't be surprised if it's a little bit earlier, but it's around that kind of time frame. So ultimately, you need to try and adapt to that. And you've got such a focal point in Sam Dalby. He's a bit of an old school kind of centre forward. Works really hard, back to goal work, been fantastic, bringing players into play, a bit old fashioned in that respect. We were able to go direct now a little bit more, kind of mix it up a little bit against the, more rough and tumble teams. So yeah, it's good. And I think, like I say, signing Corey Blackett-Taylor is a bit more of a physical winger as well, compared to like Thierry Gale, for example. It's given us options coming into this final stretch of the season where we're going to have to, battle 8 points, go to Lincoln and fight with them, as opposed to try and play them off the pitch, which we might have tried to do a couple of years ago. So, Jake's probably thinking, how are you going to set up against us in a few weeks? I said to Jake this morning that I genuinely don't know. We could go there and play 4 at the back, go with the wider men and try and kind of pick them off type of thing. Or we could, go with a 3 at the back and wing backs and kind of go direct to Sam Dalby. We just don't know, really.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, let's bring in our Bradford City fan, Ewan Hudson from the 1911 podcast. Ewan, thanks so much for joining us. I feel a little bit conflicted here when it comes to Bradford City, because on the one hand, and if you look at what's there on paper, if we're saying Bolton Wanderers are in the mix for automatic promotion with 49 points from 29 games, well, Bradford City actually have a better points per game return, 46 points from 27. So that would suggest Bradford City are in the automatic promotion race. But if you look at the discourse around the club at the moment, the frustration and the recent form, possibly paints a slightly different picture.
Yeah, well, there's a key detail that you've missed out there, and we've been dross since about October, and that's kind of really important in this debate. I was very shocked that I got this invite tonight to be talked about automatics with Bradford.
Well, you know what it's right. Like, you, and I think if I hadn't included Bradford City in this conversation,
well,
DMs.
Yeah, you say that, but I mean, if you see all the, like you say, the discourse around the club at the moment is completely back on the negative now. With 2 of the worst performances of the season back-to-back against Huddersfield and then Lincoln on Tuesday night, where we were absolutely shocking in both games, complete opposite of everything the team's done so far this season, of being, well, we're not going to lose back-to-back, we won't be open, we're going to be tough to beat. If we can't win, we are at least going to get a draw. And that was not the attitude we saw at Huddersfield, and definitely not at Lincoln. It was shocking there. But like you say, we have got 2 games in hand, but you just feel like the attitude around the club has dropped massively. It's interesting waiting in the lobby, hearing you two talk about all the signings, obviously. Bolton in particular, with Apter coming in, who's a brilliant signing from Charlton. And everyone's moved very well. Huddersfield got Ballymumba in for £1 million. Stockport have got Ola Offe back. What have Bradford done? We've got Harrison Ashby, who looks pretty good, actually, but no one else. Joe White's come in from Leyton Orient, but he's been really, really poor. And that's it, really. 2 loans, and we haven't moved early, which is a complete contrast to what we saw at the start of the season, going out and getting players like Josh Nerfill really, really early.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you feel, Ewan, I understand the criticism of recent performances, because there's a couple you mentioned there, and maybe Mansfield away would be another one, where just nowhere near good enough. I suppose the bigger picture would be, given the progress that the club's made some enormous strides over the last 18 months or so. And I just wonder, if Bradford City had been 9th all season, the discourse would be a bit different, because I think people would understand where the club's at, the certain parameters that they're working with, the fact they don't have a huge amount of money as a newly promoted club. Whereas I think the form in the first 3 months and the performances have possibly created an expectation that actually the club isn't ready to live up to.
Yeah, well, definitely the first 3 months, like I say, up to probably the middle of October, we were sweeping teams aside with ease. Obviously, you are saying teams like Cardiff, who hadn't really got up ahead of steam yet, are a completely different animal, obviously, now. But we did go there and comfortably beat them 3-1, beat Huddersfield comfortably 3-1. Although, again, that may be down to Grant's tactics and not maybe his management of the squad. We've beat Stockport, we got a draw at Bolton, got a draw at Stevenage, got a draw with Lincoln. We performed really, really well and continued that consistency, grinding out results up until recently. There is definitely a division between the fans of those who are probably a little lenient with the positioning, because obviously, you can look at it and say, well, we're fifth, we've got 2 games in hand, like you say, maybe we are in the mix for automatic. And then there's everyone else who wants the club to get a move on and say, well, this is a massive opportunity to get out of this league at the first time of asking. With some big, big clubs, there's always going to be at least one club that comes down from the Championship that will sweep this league. And that year, obviously, this year is Cardiff. And then, not to mention that if the playoffs stay like they are now, with Bolton, Stockport, and Huddersfield and us, one of those teams will go up, and the other 3 will be left disappointed, with the expectation that next year they will kick on and go and win it. And like Cole was saying, there's some massive clubs in this league, Bolton being one of them. We are a big club, maybe not as big as Bolton, but this is a massive opportunity to get out this league with a minimal budget, and the club will not take it. I will call it now.
Yeah, that's where this frustration comes from, you, and it clearly,
Absolutely.
It's, and that's totally understandable, because, and as well, one question for you, obviously, what we were speaking about before you joined, you, was Wanderers' difficulty sometimes from a player perspective managing the players, the fans' expectation on a match day at home. Do you guys have a similar type of problem in terms of? Obviously, you guys, are bringing in decent crowds as well, aren't you? Is it a similar type of feel when things aren't going quite right, especially recently? Are the fans jumping on them, or are they pretty supportive in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fans will now jump on them. I mean, the loudest chant, as Jake will be able to tell you on Tuesday night at Lincoln, was the call to sign a striker, and that tells you everything about the atmosphere of the club at the moment. But I'd say that in recent years, yes, the home atmosphere is definitely an issue because players tend to shrink. This year and last year, it definitely hasn't been an issue. We're one of the best teams at home still, despite our sort of mixed form recently. We're still grinding out results at home. And even against Cardiff, we looked really, really good in that second half, but their quality ultimately showed.
So just us then, Ewan, because we've lost 1 game since, I think, April, and we're booing and all sorts and cheering.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just us.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. There's definitely a sense of toxicity that is starting to creep back into the club, and we are expected to turn out at home and perform well. I'm not saying that we should win every game at home, but I think the fans expect us, at least at home, to come up and put up a good fight and to not just shrink and look like we don't want to play in front of that big crowd.
I also think though, Ewan, I understand because it's a really grand club with a really big fan base that's really proud and has a lot of belief in what can be achieved. And I think that's a really positive thing because, you wouldn't want to not have that, would you? But at the same time, I suppose I look at it and go, Bradford City have been underachieving in League Two for half a decade. And there is traditionally there is a pace at which things move forward unless you have lots of external investment. And so given that the club has been run quite poorly for a long time, and there have been strides that have been made, is this the time to actually be a little bit patient with the likes of David Sharp and Ryan Sparks and give them a grace period given what's been delivered?
Absolutely, yeah. I think most of the people who are calling for the club to try and get promoted at this chance are looking at the other teams, like I already mentioned, that won't go up possibly, who will miss out in the playoffs. Those are, big teams, and we'll have to fight that again and again and again. That won't change because there's always going to be those big teams in this league. And I think they're working off the basis as well that obviously that revenue jump from just TV rights alone from League One to the Championship is huge. Is it 9 million in the Championship? That's a massive jump for a club. And the opportunity is there for a club that is like you say, very well managed, but has this model that we don't really stray from. And like I mentioned already, with the ambitions of other clubs, we've been linked with a lot of players that have gone their way. Ola Ofe was linked to come to Bradford, but you just know as soon as there's a fee involved, as soon as there's wages involved, the club will fall because they can't deviate from the model. And I think a lot of fans want us to take that big step and say, well, no, the time is now. Let's, use some of that kitty that is there because we have trimmed a lot off the wages in this January. Let's use that and go out and get a big player.
No, that does make a lot of sense. Well, look, Ewan, what do you think Bradford City are going to finish in the top 6?
I think
not if they play like they did on Tuesday.
No, not at all. No, I think we've got such a hard run coming up. We've got Doncaster on Saturday, who are starting to pick up a bit of form. We've then got Luton. We've got Stockport coming up. We've got Peterborough are coming to Valley Parade as well. We've got Reading as well. We've got Wimbledon away. We've got some, I think probably the hardest run, probably stretching from the Cardiff game through to February, where we're going to play basically everyone in the top 6 barring Bolton, which is big. We are by far the worst of the top 6 at the moment in terms of form. But as Jake alluded to, the reason there's such a big gap is because the top 2 teams have been massively consistent, and no one else in that 3 to 6 has been massively consistent throughout the season. I think if we pick ourselves up from here, then there's no reason why we can't keep in the playoffs, but we will need to pull that morale back and really, really think about how we are going to change our system, how we are going to combat this slide, and try to bring back some of the performances that obviously we started the season with.
Well, we wish you well, Ewan. Thanks so much for your time, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
Cheers, Ewan.
Cheers, Ewan.
Thank you.
So our next guest is Sai from Cardiff City World. Sai, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Appreciate your time. Cardiff City looking very much the standout team in League One at the moment.
Yeah, it's gone okay, mate. I think it's been. I think the most encouraging thing is that over the season we've found different ways to win. It hasn't always just been pretty football. We've won dirty and we've won some physical, some matters. Obviously, the Bradford away game, particularly, I think it was a difficult game, and they haven't really been the same since. As I was just listening to you guys talking about Bradford just at the end there. And also, I think, that's probably the best part of the learning I think the team's done under Brian Barry Murphy. But also, every time we've lost the game, we've immediately gone on an unbeaten run, and it's been a big reaction. So after we played Blackpool away before Christmas, and the second half of that game was so bad, it was the worst half of football we've played all season. We scored 3 goals in every home game and didn't concede any for the next sort of 4 or 5. I think it was 4 games. And I think every time, even the Lincoln game, which was obviously a big blow, we then again went on another run. And I think that's encouraging for a predominantly young team. Although I think just these last probably 4 or 5 games, I've noticed that Brian Barry Murphy has started to really integrate the experienced lads a bit more. So Callum Chambers has played, Gabriel Osho's played, obviously Wintel's played all season. Chris Willock, and I think that's quite interesting that he, at the start of the season, was very much, it was like all the kids and Ryan Wintel. And then when it got to that really hectic period, over the festive period, he did lean on the experienced players a little bit more.
Yeah, it seems like it's easier to start with young lads in a way, because they're the ones who are just going to be like sponges and absorb everything. And then if you can make that the default culture, it's easier to make players like a Chris Willock, who previously has had a reputation for being a bit of an enigma and behaving in a certain way. But if you're bringing him into this default culture, he's going to slot in. And what a beautiful performance it was against Barnsley in midweek. He really looks like the jewel in the crown at the moment.
Yeah, Chris Willock, I'm so pleased for him, because he took a lot of stick last year, and he took a lot of stick even when he signed for the club. Like, you had a lot of sort of fans from his previous clubs telling us how he's got all the talent in the world, but you'll never see it because he never turns up and blah blah blah. And he doesn't work hard. And after watching him last season, you kind of felt like they were right. But from the moment Brian Barry Murphy's come in, he very much believed in Chris Willock. You could see that, and you could see him working with him on the touchline when he was on the bench or when he was on the wing. And Chris Willock, predominantly this season, has been really good. It's certainly the best we've seen of him in a Cardiff shirt, but he wasn't quite getting the rewards for it. And, he was working hard and he was doing a lot of defensive work compared to what we've seen from him probably historically.
Mhm.
And a couple of times he would go close with assists and shooting opportunities. But ever since he scored that late goal, I forget where it was now. It was away from home, and it was quite a tight game. And it was right towards the end of the game, and I think we were winning 1-0 or it was 1-1, and he just went up the other end right towards the end of the game, and he just sort of curled it into the top corner. And ever since then, he seems to have had that extra spring in his step in terms of what he believes he can do. And yeah, Tuesday was sort of the icing on the cake, but that's been coming for a while. And I think a lot of it comes from the manager believing in him. But I also think Chris Willock deserves a lot of credit because he's worked just as hard as Joel Colwell or all the young lads who do all the received running. He has done work.
It really does look like a fluent front four, because you've got Amari Kellerman as the striker, but he almost seems to operate like a bit like a false nine at times. You've got Tanner on the right. You've got Willock cutting inside and being that sort of that jewel in the crown, that bit of individuality he can provide. Colwell making those runs. There does seem to be a really nice synergy between those four.
Yeah, it was really fascinating on Tuesday because I think after Yusuf Salic's injury on Saturday against Stockport, which was really scary, by the way, to watch in real time, the way he landed and stuff was not nice. And he did not move for 15 minutes. He was just face down. So that was not nice. But, luckily he's had the all clear and he's all good. I actually was half wondering whether he would play because he seems to be like that sort of character on Tuesday, but obviously with concussion protocols and stuff. But every man and their dog assumed that it would be Callum Robinson who would start for us on Tuesday because Yusuf Salic is out. Callum Robinson has very patiently waited for not many starts, but and maybe Isaac Davis at a push if he didn't fancy Callum Robinson through the middle, but he went with Amari Kellyman and then gave him runners because Amari's going to come for it for feet, and then you have Hannah and Joel Colwell and Chris Willock getting beyond, and it worked really well. And we pulled Barnsley all over the place in terms of, I said in my review that we won that game off the ball, both when we had the ball and when they had the ball, but it was the amount of work that went into the off the ball stuff because it was the pressing when they had the ball was just, they could not, in that first half an hour, they couldn't get out at all. And to the point where their keeper went down and they stopped going short and they made a few tweaks.
Sorry to interject. The biggest, the most impressive thing from the outside looking in, like obviously football fans in general are obsessed with transfers and bringing new players in, and it's absolutely necessary to keep things fresh and blah 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 blah. And especially when you dropped out of the Championship into a league that you expect to be up there in. And rightly so, given Cardiff's stature of a football club. But you haven't signed anybody. And that's the biggest impressive. I mean, obviously, you got the lad on loan from Everton, haven't you? Is he on loan or have you signed him from Everton, the keeper?
So in the summer, we signed Amari Kellyman on loan and we signed Gabriel Osho and Nathan Trott on loan.
None of them before the opening day.
So that's all before the first game of the season. And then in January, we've just signed Everton.
That's Harry.
It is Harry Tyra. It's a permanent deal. But I think that might be because Matthew Turner might go out on loan to play some football, but he might not because we've also let Ethan Howworth go and Jack Alnwick as well. So we haven't actually got an abundance of keepers who have got any first team experience outside.
I think from a Cardiff fan's perspective, I'd be looking at it going like, providing that you can keep this up. And listen, the likelihood is you will go up automatically. Like 10 points is a big gap. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it is catchable. The wheels could fall, and like I was saying before, it's up to us and Lincoln and the teams below you to keep winning just in case. But the chances are you're going to go up. But if I were a Cardiff fan, I'd be thinking, how much experience are these young lads are getting like in this league? The expectation to win, which is to go from a level above to the lower league, increases the expectation of fans straight away. Like I've been there so many times up and down these leagues where you drop into a lower league, you think, oh, we're gonna win every week, and it doesn't always happen like that. But the fact that you have done that, and they're learning all week in, week out. I'd be really excited for next season as well, providing that you can get over the line this season. I don't know what your thoughts are on that side.
Yeah, I think like I was one of the very, very few people who said at the start of the season that, look, of course the aim is promotion, but the most important thing was that all of these players who were, I think the majority of the squad's under 25, including the ones, who were not come through the academy, obviously got a few experienced ones in there, was that by the end of the season, all of these lads who are going to have played a full season, in some of them had never played men's football before. So like to be under this amount of pressure, and it is, I watched the Bradford game. Obviously we go 2-0 up, and the second half is, we kind of just sat in and tried to hit them on the break. We weren't too fast because we got 2-0 in the lead. We didn't need to push out, but it was stressful to watch because it was a different performance from us. And you just, because there's only one goal in it, you're kind of like, oh, if we drop points now, it's going to be like a bit of a downer sort of thing. And I was thinking about like those young players, like that's a lot of pressure for them because everybody expects Cardiff now even more than they did at the start of the season to win, and they expect us to go up. So it's going to be a stressful sort of few months for fans. But some of these boys, like I said, it's their first season of men's football, and I think that's where your Ryan Wintles, your Callum Chambers, and people like that are really important. But also someone like Alex Robertson, who's got promoted from League One before with Portsmouth, being there and done it is vital. But I think just lastly, I was going to say Ruben Colwell's back on the grass as well, which is a good thing for us because that's like a new signing now because we haven't had him for the best part of 3 months.
Absolutely. Jake, I did want to revisit what you were saying at the start of the show, that you maybe looked at Cardiff City and felt you were catchable. Any particular reasons where you'd say, we feel like we can get at them?
I think they've shown it in quite a couple of games this year. I think you can get at Cardiff if you press them aggressively. And Si speaks about, that youthfulness in the team. I think you can prey on that a little bit, certainly when you've maybe got more experienced players. I mean, I go back to the game where we beat them at the Bank, and I thought it was quite, even though it was 2-1, I thought it was quite a convincing win for Lincoln. Those experienced players that we had all played well and lynched onto those inexperienced players. I mean, Dylan Lawler is probably one of the best centre halves that I've seen at this level for a long time, with the potential and ability wise. But he was shook, and I think sometimes when Cardiff go to these smaller grounds where they are playing on, these grounds like Exeter won't be easy for Cardiff to go to because they're not used to having these experiences. And I think if you do press them, like a lot of teams in this league can do, I know I spoke to Si about this when we did our preview for the game. If you press Cardiff, you get at them. I mean, all the teams that I can think of that have pressed Cardiff aggressively, Lincoln beat them, Bolton at Tough Sheet beat them.
We didn't press that game. Sorry, Jake. You are right. I agree with you. But that game, and I'm sure Si will remember it pretty well. It very much felt like a game of chess. Really, I think it was a bit of to-ing and throwing, weren't it? But yeah, you're right. I mean, get pressing. Sorry to interrupt.
If you get like Bradford did at Cardiff as well, I think you can get at this team, and that's what I was going to ask you, Si. Like, I know you speak about how you've got some experienced players, but do you feel like with these younger lads, because they don't know how to get over that, does that worry you in any sense? Because you are only 4 points in front of us at this minute in time. I know you've got a gap to the other lot. We'll concern ourselves with them another time. It could take one slip up, and Cardiff could be dragged, and Cardiff could be dragged back into it. Does that youthfulness not only excite you, but have a bit of a concern in the back of your head?
I think it would, because you are right about the game against you guys, but also since that game, for every away game, Callum Chambers and Gabriel Osho was played, or Callum Chambers and Will Fish, we have kind of gone for like we almost got like a home defense and an away defense, although Dylan Lawler's injured at the moment anyway. But like, it's good experience for the youngsters, don't get me wrong, and they'll learn from that type of game. But I think the manager's really clever. Like, he's made some tactical tweaks. So like, when Bradford came to our place earlier in the season, we were so open at that time to everybody. Like, we were conceding 15 shots a game, but it was just that Nathan Trott was in sensational form. Whereas now we don't concede that many shots. However, what I have noticed, and even against Barnsley on Tuesday night, is we're way more direct than we were earlier in the season. And I think part of that is because after the Leyton Orient game, when Don Ballard forced a mistake out of Nathan Trott in his 6-yard box. And like, my opinion of that is, if you play out from the back and your keeper's super comfortable on the ball, eventually it will happen. Like, you will, you've got to accept it. But for Nathan Trott, I think he still made a sensational save on Tuesday, so I'm not worried about his shot stopping. But he does look a bit nervy on the ball. So I think that will be something that he's got to get around, because his long passing is nowhere near as good as his short passing, and we end up giving the ball away much more. So it'll be interesting for sure. But like, as far as I'm concerned, look, I'll be honest with you, I want to win. I want to win the league, and I want.
Do you think you will win the league, Simon?
Do I think we will? Yeah. I do, if I'm honest. But I also don't really care if we finish second. And as far as I'm concerned, if we can keep building that gap between first and third, I'm all right. I'm happy. But don't get me wrong, like, I really want to win the league, because my son, who's 16, and my other 2 older sons who are not so much interested in football, but like my younger son, who goes every week with me, like, he's never seen us win a trophy or, you know, have that sort of success.
Because 2002 he'd have been and you finished second in the championship a few times, and it was 2013. Did you win under Malky Mackay?
Yeah, but so he was born in 2009. So
so he's 4.
But even when we went to the Chelsea game in the Carabao Cup in the quarterfinal, like, where I sit, I'm right behind the bench, and like, I'm very lucky. I'm right behind the away bench, and you could see the look on his face when he could see, you know, all the superstars on the just a row in front of him. Like, it was. So it dawned on me that night that he hasn't experienced the Leeds FA Cup win at Ninian Park and the promotion at the Millennium State and all these things that I kind of almost take for granted over the years, the promotions to the Premier League and stuff like that. Like, he's never had that. So that's the main reason I want to win.
How many promotions to the Premier League have you had, Si?
2.
It was 1 in 2013 and 2018, I think.
I'll just give you a timely reminder, Si, that's all. Just while you sat at the top of the table, you know.
Wanted to drag us down, didn't you?
Oh, don't worry about them. They're 10 points behind. You won't concern yourself with Bolton Wanderers.
When was the last time you were in the Premier League?
2012. But we were in it for 13 consecutive years. So
that's fair. You had some.
I got like this hand on there.
Yeah, we'll leave those 2 can continue the bickering afterwards. It's been lovely to have you on, Si. Thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
Top man, all a pleasure. Thank you, boys.
Cheers, Si.
So our final guest of the evening is Russ Johnson from Scarf Bagara War, a podcast on Stockport County. Russ, thanks for waiting and appreciate your time this evening. Stockport County, really encouraging performance at Blackpool, it seemed like last time out. Are you feeling pretty bullish about the Hatters' chances?
Yeah, feeling probably better than I would have been if you'd have asked me when Jake came to watch us Lincoln beat us 2-1 at Edgeley Park, definitely. But yeah, we've I'll get that in for you, Jake. There you go. I mean, Tuesday night was probably the best performance we've seen. The whole match was the best performance we've had all season. We had Blackpool, arm's length for the whole thing. The 2-1 probably flattered them, to be fair, and their manager said as much. But yeah, I mean, since Bradford, that 1 half against Bradford, that's the best we've played. So yeah, really, really happy, and it's been building really over the last sort of 2.5, 3 games.
Yeah, I watched the extended highlights of that one, Russ, and I felt like you were really dominant. Like, you lost obviously Jaden Fevrier to Charlton, but Jack Diamond in that right wing back role, he looked such a thorn in the opposition, and he looked like a such a natural, and I'm really pleased for the lad given everything he's been through for the last 3 or 4 years. But he looks like he's really at home in that wing back role. But as a team performance, so impressive, because you just seem to carve them open at will, and it should have been a 3 or 4-0 game rather than a 2-1.
Yeah, and that's what we're probably lacking, actually, is that final third sort of clicking, which when I came onto the show last time, I was hoping that would start to click, and it hasn't yet properly. Last Tuesday was probably another one of those where we've not really give anybody a hiding yet, and you could say it's coming. I don't think it is, and I think we'll just keep on not grinding out results, but winning games by 1 goal, probably the odd goal, and that's the way it seems to be going. I know we got Tanto again on loan. He signed last night. So we've got Tanto now, we've got Wootton, and we've got Sidibe from St Johnstone. So we signed him in the window as well. So it's been a really good window for us. Just to correct you slightly there, Jack Diamond doesn't play right wing back. He's sort of been playing in. We've sort of play 2 number 10s behind Wootton, and he's been playing in one of those Dacris Cogley.
Right, okay. Sorry,
he's right wing back.
Oh, right. So I read it as Diamond was right wing back, and it was Benny, Blecky Anderson, and Osborne. But maybe that was misreading it through what the BBC had. But he was certainly very much on the right hand side, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely on the right hand side. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, certainly.
Whilst we're talking right wing backs, then Russ, how's Josh Decris-Cogley getting on?
He's version 2.0 of anything we've had there this season. He's really good. He's settled in really well. Defensively, okay, but going forward, really good, and we're really pleased with him. He's really pleased.
You'll never get, or you very unlikely get a 9 or 10 out of 10 performance from him, but you'll always get a 6, 7 out of 10, like pretty consistently.
I'm happy with that, because we had Onyango there before that. Diamond was filling in there sometimes, and you'd have Fevs there as well. Fevrier, who's just gone to Charlton, and that swap deal with Tanto almost. So nobody's really made the position their own this season. O'Keefe was there, and he went back to Barnsley, obviously, and then suddenly turned into bloody Messi when he played Liverpool 2 days later. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, it's just been a bit of a problem area for us. Left wing back as well has been, because we signed Teo Eden in the summer, not kicked a ball until recently, and he looks pretty good, replacing Owen Dodgson. So these two. The 2 wing-back areas, weirdly, in the last sort of few games, because we've had Eden and Cogley, looks a lot more settled. So I'm a lot more positive in those areas.
Throwing it over to Jake and Cole then, how do you look at Stockport County from an outside perspective? Are you a little bit worried about them coming up and the steam that they can generate, or?
Terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm terrified of both of them, to be honest, because look at where we can spend money. Do you know what I mean? If I'm honest, as the team that hold the power now, I'm more scared of Stockport than I am of Bolton, because Stockport have got the know-how, and the only piece that I thought was missing from Stockport was having someone to play alongside Wootton, and now they've got Tanto back, who is proven in a Stockport County shirt, and now he's got the number 9. He's going to have a swagger about him between now and the end of the season. That concerns me, because those games that they were maybe losing at home, I don't think Stockport are going to lose many more games at home this season. And the chances they were dominant in a lot of away games. I remember speaking to Russ in the club before we went to Edgley Park the other week. He said, we've been on top in these away games, but we just haven't taken our chances. Now they're going to start taking their chances, because they create them at quite an alarming rate. And I think Stockport they've got that know-how, and it's not. And with Bolton, it's a completely different issue, because they've got the squad depth, right? But they have been inconsistent this season, both home and that away form. Colin, is the thing that would worry me about Bolton taking our place in the top 2. But Stockport have got it all, and I think with the players that they've got coming in, and the way that they can play. I mean, there was a 20-minute period in that game where we came to Edgley Park where they just look fantastic. And to be honest, personally, I'm quite glad Fevrier's gone, because he's an absolute bloody nightmare, certainly against us. So, I'm more worried about Stockport. Stockport are my big concern.
Yeah, I think getting Tanto back in, obviously that alleviates a little bit of pressure on Wootton, done it as well, obviously, because beforehand it was, whenever you looked at Stockport's results, it's like you know, if Wootton doesn't score, you don't really pick up the wins that you probably deserve. Is that fair to say that, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Interesting to see Hinchliffe starting because I think although he was Player of the Year in the promotion-winning side, there was very much an assumption that Corey Adai would come in and it would be all about the distribution. And actually, Hinchliffe's reclaimed his place, which I wouldn't have necessarily anticipated.
No, he's seen off a few goalkeepers over the years, to be honest. I think one of them's second choice at Ajax now, Vít Jaros. So he has seen off a load of them. And when Adai came in, 6'8", we were really sort of pleased with him. Ball at his feet is really, really good, but can't command his 6-yard box, let alone 18-yard box, and he's 6'8", and it's not really worked out for him. And Charlie said at the start of the season that we've got 2 number ones in Hinchliffe and Adai. I mean, turns out, if I'm being completely honest, we've got 2 number 2s, and I think we'll be in for a keeper in the summer. But that said, Hinchliffe, he's played over 400 matches for us. He's in his testimonial year. He's an absolute legend, and he continues to save us in important situations. So, and the most recent one, I mean, he didn't have a save to make, I don't think, against Blackpool. Even the goal wasn't his fault. He couldn't have done anything about it anyway. But Cardiff, there was a chance right at the end, and he, one-on-one, he spread himself and got the block in. So that to me is a point gainer, and he can do that for us. He can really do that. Yeah, I'd say he's got the odd mistake in him, but he's probably in 10 years, he's probably made about 3-4 mistakes in his 10 years. The own goal, the Puskas own goal from the other week, that's probably up there as well. I don't know if you saw that where it came off Alowu's backside.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm really surprised with Corey Adai, because whenever I've seen him, I always think he's a hell of a specimen of goalkeeper, him, and he always seems to look the part. So the fact that he isn't playing, it's like I'm a bit like, what's kind of gone on there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's physically, obviously, he's got everything. He can play ball to feet, all that kind of stuff. Massive. He can get down really quickly. I think it's the psychological side of being a goalkeeper. He really struggled. So it happens at every ground up and down the country, doesn't it? If you make a bit of a mistake or you don't do something quite right and you haven't got credit in the bank, you can hear it behind you, can't you, or at the side? And I think he struggled with that. He sort of had a dip. If I could chart a graph, his credit was down to start with, but he managed to get that back up after a run of solid games and pulling out some really, really good saves. And then he just made like a couple of mistakes or was a bit nervy at a cross, where he could have come for it. And I think the Plymouth game away was probably a big one for him, and he made a couple of mistakes. And then everyone's going for the third one. Well, he should have saved that. And you're thinking, well, no, you're just piling on 2 goals where he did make mistakes onto a third, and it's bad. And he probably sees it online and all this kind of stuff. So because he is online a lot, so I just think I honestly think it's got too much for him. And even now, his demeanor, the tacit information we're getting from him, he just doesn't look like he wants to be there. Doesn't come over and clap, the fans when everybody else does. He's subkeeper, and I just think it's an unfortunate thing that it's just not worked out for him.
Well, that's a shame. Hopefully it can work out for him, but maybe elsewhere. So you reckon you're going to be in the market for a goalkeeper in the next few days?
I don't think in the next few days. No, I think we're going to stick with Hinchliffe. Yeah, I think it's a summer thing that we'll probably do that. I'll be surprised. The rumor is in the next few days we could possibly be getting a certain Louis Barry.
Don't you dare.
I know. And the reason why we it's doing the jungle drums on the forums and all that kind of stuff. People, the ITKs, they're all saying it. But the number 20 shirt has been left open, just like the number 9 shirt was left open when Sidibe took 24. So we're all going, well, the number 9 shirt has got to be Tanto. Then it came true, and then all these ITKs are saying that Louis Barry is probably coming back.
Oh, that could be a real difference making that. Like a trio of Tanto, Wootton and Louis Barry. That is a real threat, I think, and they've got that understanding between them. So that could really move the needle if you in terms of automatic promotion. How do you reckon you are in midfield? Because obviously Ollie Norwood's Ollie Norwood, isn't he? Quality delivery forwards at Blackpool. Do you reckon you're a little bit light in terms of a physical box to box profile in there? I think is Owen Moxon absent at the moment.
Owen Moxon's gone on loan to Wigan and scored at the weekend, so he's out. Possibly, yeah. You've probably got a point. So if I start to name, they got obviously Ollie Norwood, Ben Osborne's in there on loan from Derby. So he came in and started to play left wing back because we were so light in that area because he can play there. Now that we're strong in that area, he's coming to central midfield. So you tend to get a middle three of Odin Bailey, Ollie Norwood, and Ben Osborne. Bate came back. Lewis Bate came back on Tuesday, so we've bolstered in that area. Yeah, so he came back and start, a few minutes, and it looked like he'd never been out. To be fair, I know it was only a few minutes, but he was phases of playing, connecting. He was doing all of that, which was really good to see. Camps is out, for the season, we think. So Moxon's gone to Wigan. Yeah, we probably are a bit like there. Fiorini's nowhere to be seen. I think that's just another one where it's not worked.
He's had a lot of injuries, hasn't he, poor lad? Lewis
yeah. I think he's out with an injury at the moment, actually, I think. But he's just nowhere to be seen near the squad. And then you're into sort of youth prospects after that. So potentially, yeah, we probably are light in midfield. And if we don't bolster in that area and before Monday, then it's probably a risk, to be honest. Because if we lose one of those four, we're starting to shuffle the pack a bit.
Certainly are. Right, prediction time then. Jake, I'm going to go to you first. Who finishes in the top two of League One?
I think we're all going to say ourselves, aren't we? Look, 6 points clear at this minute in time. We've got both of these two to play at home, which I'm pretty bullish on the fact that we could get 6 points from both of those games. And the fact that we've been mega consistent, and I don't see a sign of that slowing down, and these two haven't. So it's not. They're both threats. I'm terrified of both of them, especially if Stockport get Barry bloody hell. But I do think that our consistency over the course of the season should hopefully pay in, and I think we could do it, and I think we will do it.
Cole, what do you think is going to happen? Are you going to predict Bolton Wanderers to finish in the top two?
I think. Naturally, you have to back your own team, don't you? I think without being too much of a cop-out, a lot of it does depend on kind of how we end the window. Right. All I would say is out of all three of the managers who we're talking about here in terms of getting promoted, ours is the only one who's got the promotion on the CV, and I do think that counts
at this level.
At this level, in terms of getting in. Yeah, I get all that, but I'm on about getting out of this league. Shuey's done it, hasn't he? And with that comes his ability to be able to manage them big game moments very well. If you look at our record over the course of the season, not only this season but last season as well, beating Birmingham at home and all that type of stuff, we're doing well under Shuey in them big games. And of course, as the season goes on, they all become big games. So yeah, I'm quietly confident of closing Lincoln down and especially having to play them as well. I understand their away form hasn't been great, but as I've just said, I think a lot of it counts towards the fact that they all become big games as the season progresses. So that's why I'm quietly confident.
So what would it take then for you to go from quietly confident in your status at the moment to saying, yes, we're going to do it in the next few days in terms of incoming?
Ryan Hardy. Because he bagged a shed load of goals for Shuey at Plymouth, and he knows exactly how to get the best out of him. And I think if we sign him with Mason Burstow and of course Sam Dalby firing, I think as a central striker, three options, I think you're doing very well there. Getting a Mario back quicker than the rumoured time that he's out will also help. And of course, signing the lad from Charlton, who everybody seems to wax lyrical about as well, is also beneficial. So providing them things click and happen, then yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Okay, slight. You're slightly evading going in actual prediction.
Yeah. I haven't really actually predicted anything, have I? Really?
All right, we'll let you off. We're not going to throw you under the trapdoor just yet. Russ, what do you think? Who do you think is going to finish in the top two?
It's really difficult, isn't it? It's going to be really exciting. I'm not too concerned about going to Bolton and Lincoln away, purely because we're top of the away table. We play really well away, and we've got Tanto back. I had this vision before we had Tanto going to Bolton. We're going to get leathered, but we'll probably just beat you 1-0 now, won't we? And it'll be a Tanto goal. I don't know. I'm joking. No, it's going to be really interesting. I've got to back us. I mean, we finished on 87 last season. I hope we better that. And I think if we do, it's probably going to see us second. It's easy to say Lincoln, though, isn't it? Because they are there and they've accumulated the points and they're in the bank, aren't they? But I'm just looking at the table now. Yeah, I'm gonna back ourselves because we've got Tanto, and if Louis Barry comes in, I'd probably be even more confident. Assuming that Louis Barry's a fit Louis Barry and he does what he did before for us. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna back myself. Back ourselves. Yeah.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah, you have to. Exactly, you have to, don't you?
It's interesting though, because if we look at this from a mathematical angle, Lincoln City setting the bar, because for Bolton and Stockport, if Lincoln maintain their current points per game return, they'll get to 90 points. So Bolton and Stockport might need to get to 1991, which would mean not back to 1991, but to 90.
I wish we could. I wish we could go back to 1991.
Yeah, best years.
It might need another 42 points or so from 17 games, whereas hypothetically, if we say Stockport County maintain their current points per game return, which is 49 points from 28 games, that would mean they end up on a total of 81 points, in which case Lincoln City would only need another 26 points to match or better that. So from 18 games. So it's I think the bar is lower for Lincoln than it is for Bolton and Stockport, and I think that's a significant factor.
Yeah, I think these guys have got to be pretty flawless, haven't they? Really, because of the
they're both capable of being.
They are because of the current points gap, but they have both of them have the potential to do so. So I think it is going to be really interesting, probably for outsiders. I think us three are probably all going to be bricking it between the next 3 months, and I'm sure it could get feisty in some group chats that we're all in. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting round. And at the end of the day, the team that do it are going to deserve it, because I think the bar has been quite good this season. And I know a lot of people have said League One's rubbish this year, but
a lot of people said that.
I think the bar is quite high.
That's because Lincoln is second, that Jake. That's the reason.
I can't wait to go 12 points in front of you in a couple of weeks. It's going to be unbelievable.
But this is why we do it, innit, guys? It's for the enjoyment of it all and the buzz of it all, innit? So, but the best man or woman win.
May the best person win.
Yeah.
There we go. Brilliant stuff. Well, listen, thanks everyone so much for watching. Jake, really appreciate your time as co-host this evening. Get subscribed to the Here for the Lincoln podcast. Likewise, the Fan Zone podcast on on Bolton Wanderers. There we go. I don't know where I got that from. And to Russ from the Scarf Bagara War. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks to all my guests, and we'll see you again for another League One podcast next week.